In the everyday life of a diabetic, we have so many variables to consider, and we will cover them in today's episode of Diabetic Pills. First of all, we'll cover the differences between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is often diagnosed at a young age, but it can be diagnosed at any age. In this illness, the immune system attacks and destroys beta cells in the pancreas and causes dependence upon injected or pumped insulin for life. Type 1 cannot be prevented and it cannot be managed without insulin. Type 2 is often diagnosed over age 40 but can be diagnosed at any age. The body becomes insulin resistant and does not use insulin properly. It can be initially treated with diet, exercise and or pills, but over time type 2 may also have to inject insulin. It is seen that unhealthy lifestyles lower the risk of type 2. However, some people inherit type 2 despite an healthy lifestyle. And this is possible to manage and in some kind go to a kind of remission of the illness even without medication. But is not the case for all the type 2 diabetics. There is no cure either for type 1 or type 2 diabetes at the moment. That's why research is so important. So, type 1 is an autoimmune disease where the immune system destroys beta cells in the pancreas that are essential to produce two hormones, insulin that lowers the blood sugar and glucagon that increases the blood sugar. In a healthy person, the body automatically keeps the blood sugar stable in the ideal range with food intake, physical activity, and the balancing of these two kind of hormones. In a type 1 diabetic, it's important to mimic the same behavior in order to stay healthy and avoid dangerous hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia. So how a diabetic can have a good glucose profile during endurance sport? There are several tips. Start the activities with blood sugar level higher than ideal, but better not too much. We will cover that. Preferably start the activities few hours after the meal, so we have an increased blood sugars without having to do many snacks. Since every time we do snacks, we usually have to do additional insulin. Decrease the quantity of insulin done before the activity when compared to days with no activities, and control the blood sugar during the activity. This is difficult during races, but not so difficult during training and should be done. Then we can eat carbs during the exercise if needed, and this is needed anyway for long distance events, and eat the following meal as soon as the activities is finished in order to increase the blood sugar without risking hypoglycemia, and this is also useful for recovery for any athlete. The factors that affect blood sugar values are so many. We will see a list here, but we won't mention all of that. For example, for food, carbohydrate is the main responsible, both with portion or carbohydrate type, to increase the blood sugar. Alcohol decreases blood sugar usually, and dehydration increases it. Then there are sleep factors such as the dawn phenomenon and the foot to the floor syndrome. These two phenomena and syndromes usually increase the blood sugar when we are close to waking up and put our feet to the floor and start our day. Then we have the exercise. For example, cardio, prolonged activities decrease the blood sugar, whereas the high intensity and weight increase the blood sugar. And the time and the duration of the exercise can do both depending. Then we have the biological effects, for example, the stress, the anxiety, the illness, the period, the insufficient sleep. These all increase the blood sugars, whereas previous hypoglycemia decrease the blood sugar. Then we have factors related to insulin, for example, the quantity of insulin, the type of insulin that usually decrease the blood sugar, the quality of insulin, for example, if it is expired or if it has been exposed to heat, or the site of injection, And then we have the environmental factors such as the hot and humid temperature that usually lowers blood sugar but depends on the subject, and then the cold temperature on sunburn that increase the blood sugar. And then we have secondary factors such as the absorption of insulin in subcutaneous fat, the consistency of tracking insulin delivered, the glucose monitoring alarm settings, and the motivation and mindfulness. There are so many factors, but these are minor ones. Now that we have covered all the factors, what are the best moments to train for a type 1 diabetic athlete? There are three main choices. The first one is early morning fasted, so breakfast after the activity. The pro is the mild temperature in summer. The cons is that there is less energy because you don't have done any pre-run fuel, so better to avoid long runs or hard sessions. And then, in order to maintain the blood sugar high enough before starting the activities, we may have to keep the blood sugar high for all the previous night, and this may lead to poor sleep and recovery. The second choice is before lunch. The pros are that we have less active insulin on board. We have usually optimal blood sugar levels because we have eaten breakfast, and we have enough energy for harder sessions or long sessions. The cons are the high temperatures in summer. And the final choice is before dinner. The pro is the lower temperature compared to pre-lunch in summer. The cons is that lunch and dinner are far away, so we might end up with keeping the blood sugar high for too long or having to do additional snacks. Then we have the fatigue after all the day of work, and then the endorphins caused by the activity affects sleep and thus recovery. This is also the reason why it is better to avoid, in my opinion, to run before, after dinner and before going to bed, because this affects the recovery and sleep, and also because if we lower too much with activity the blood sugar, then we have to eat again before going to sleep.